Book of Heaven, Volume 29, Part 2, February 17th, 1931. Impositions. Most bitter tears. Jesus consoles her by assuring her that he concedes to her the grace of not letting her fall into sufferings. How only voluntary suffering constitutes the true victim. I am going through most bitter days. My poor existence goes on under the nightmare of a tragedy. My Jesus, help me. Do not abandon me. You who have always been so good with me and have sustained me with so much love in the struggles of my life. Oh, please do not leave me now that the struggles are more terrible and fierce. Oh, please, my love, show your power. See, O Jesus, they are not demons that fight against me. For with a sign of the cross I would make them flee, who knows where. But they are the superiors, whom you alone can put in their place. I am the poor condemned one, and I myself do not know what I've done. Oh, how sorrowful is my story. They told me that they want to put me under another priest authorized by the bishop, who will call doctors and will do all those tests that he wants, leaving me abandoned by everyone else, at the mercy of this one. At such announcement, I burst into tears, unable to stop crying. My eyes had become fountains. I spent the whole night crying, and I prayed Jesus to give me strength and to put an end to such great storm. See, I said, my love, it has been 2 months and more of continuous struggles. Struggles with creatures, struggles with you, that you would not let me fall into sufferings. And oh, how much it costs me to fight with my Jesus. But not because I do not want to suffer, but because those who are above me want it so. But now I can bear no more, and only then will I stop crying, when you tell me that you concede to me to free me from the bother I give to the priest. The war is all because of this. And I cried and cried with such bitterness that I felt my blood being poisoned in my veins. So much so that I often felt as though without life, without breath. But however I felt, so I continued to cry and sob. Then, while I was in a sea of tears, my sweet Jesus clasped me to himself in his arms, and with a tender voice, as if he too wanted to cry, told me, "My good daughter, do not cry any more. My heart can bear no more. Your tears have descended into the depth of it, and I feel your bitterness so vividly that I feel it burst. My daughter, courage. You know that I have loved you very, very much, and now this love does violence to me to make you content. if until now I have kept you suspended from the state of sufferings for a few days, in order to make them comprehend that my will was to continue to keep you as I have kept you for as many as 46 years. However, now that they want to get you with your back to the wall, they put me in the condition of making use of my permissive will. There's a footnote here about permissive will. It says, see volume 28, February 8th, 1931, on permissive versus wanted will of God. They put me in the condition of making use of my permissive will, not wanted, of suspending you from the state of victim. Therefore do not fear. From now on, I will no longer communicate to you my pains. I will no longer lay myself within you in a way that you would remain stiffened and without motion. So you will remain free without having need of anyone. Be assured, daughter, until they calm down, and for as long as they do not want you to fall into sufferings, I shall not do it again. Now, you must know that the state of sufferings in which I used to put you regarded my humanity, which wanted to continue its life of pains in you. Now the most important thing is left to you, my will. Do you give me your word that you will live always in it? That you will be the sacrificed one, the victim of my will? That letting it dominate within you, you will not surrender a single act of life to your will? Assure me, good daughter, that you will neglect nothing of what I have taught you to do, and will continue what you have done until now in my fiat. This is the culminating point of your Jesus over you, placing the rights of my will in safety in your soul. Therefore hurry, tell me that you shall make me content. And I, my Jesus, I promise, I swear, I want it, to follow what you have taught me. But you must not leave me, because with you I can do anything. But without you, I am good at nothing. And Jesus continued saying, do not fear, I do not leave you. Know that I love you, and if I have induced myself to concede that you would not fall into the state of sufferings, it was nothing other than a great, intense, excessive love toward you. In seeing you crying so much, my love conquered my will, and put a stop for now. But know that the scourges will rain down like pouring rain. They deserve it. When they do not want the victims the way it pleases me, and in the way wanted by me, they justly deserve to be struck severely. And do not think that I will do it on this very day, but let a little time pass, and then you will see and hear what my justice has in store. So I spent the first day free, without struggling with my Jesus, because since he had assured me that he would not let me fall into sufferings, I no longer felt myself being incited, pushed to accept, to submit myself to the pains that Jesus wanted to give me. But while the struggle had ceased, such a fear had remained in me that my beloved Jesus might surprise me all of a sudden. And in order to calm me, he told me, "Good daughter, do not fear. Your Jesus told you this, and that's enough. I am not a creature who can fail to keep the word. I am God, and when I speak, I do not change. I told you that until they calm down and fix things, I will not let you fall." There is a footnote here about the word fall. It's to be read as fall into the state of suffering. I shall not let you fall into the state of suffering, and so it shall be. And even if the world went upside down, because my justice wants to punish creatures, I shall not change my word. In fact, you must know that there is nothing that placates justice more, and that reaches the point of changing the greatest chastisements into deeds of graces, than voluntary suffering. And it is not those who suffer out of necessity, because of illness or misfortune, that can be called true victims. The whole world is full of these sufferings, but those who voluntarily offer themselves to suffer what I want, and in the way I want, these are the victims that resemble me. My suffering was all voluntary. They could give me not one pain, even the slightest, had I not wanted it so. This is why, when I had to make you fall into sufferings, I almost always asked you whether you voluntarily accepted, so as to have your voluntary suffering not forced. A suffering that is forced or out of necessity is nothing great before God. What enamors, enraptures, and reaches the point of binding God himself is the voluntary suffering. If you knew how my heart was wounded when you would put yourself in my hands like a little lamb, so that I might bind you and do to you whatever I wanted. I deprived you of motion. I petrified you. I can say that I made you feel mortal pains, and you would let me do it. And this was nothing. The strongest tie was that you could not go out of that state of pains in which your sacrificator Jesus had put you, if my minister would not come to call you to obedience. This is what constituted you true victim. No sick person, not even the very prisoners, are denied motion and seeking help in extreme needs. Only for you had my love prepared the greatest cross, because great things I wanted and want to make of you. The greater are my designs, the more singular the cross it forms. And I can say that there has never been in the world a cross similar to that which with so much love your Jesus had prepared for you. Therefore my sorrow is indescribable, in seeing myself opposed by creatures, as much authority as they might have in the ways that I want to have with souls. They want to dictate to me the laws, as if they knew more than I do. Therefore my sorrow is great, and my justice wants to punish those who have been the cause of such a great sorrow for me. Fiat. March 2nd, 1931. How offering the sacrifice of the saints doubles the glory. The divine will has the resurrective virtue. One who does the divine will acquires the rights to the divine goods. I was continuing my acts in the divine will, and I kept offering the sacrifices that the saints of the Old Testament did, those of my celestial mamma, all the sacrifices of my beloved Jesus, and so on with all the rest. The divine will placed them all in order for me before my mind, and I kept offering them as the most beautiful homage to my Creator. But while I was doing this, my sweet Jesus, moving in my interior, told me, "My daughter, there is not one thing suffered and done by all the saints of the history of the world in which my will has not had its part, making itself actor and concurrent with strength, with help, with support for that sacrifice or work that they did." Now the soul, by offering them to God as homage of glory, calls back the memory of that sacrifice and work, and my divine will recognizes that which from its own it placed in those acts, and it gives the virtue of doubling the glory of that sacrifice for God and for the one who had the good of sacrificing and operating in order to fulfill the divine will. True good never ceases, either in heaven or on earth. It is enough for a creature to remember it and offer it, that the glory in heaven is renewed, and the effects of that good descend upon earth for the good of creatures. Therefore, the life of true good is not subject to dying. In fact, who is the life of my church? Who nourishes her and acts as her teacher, if not the brief course of my life down here? I can say that it is my pains that sustain her. It is my doctrines that instruct her. It is the sacraments that nourish her. So all the good that I did not die, but remained with the fullness of life, and life that vivifies, preserves, nourishes, and grows continuously, and gives itself to whomever wants it. And as the creature remembers, she already places herself in relationship with my goods, and as she keeps offering them, they redouble to give themselves to her, and I feel the glory of what I did for love of creatures being redoubled. More so, since one who operates divine will acquires the resurrective virtue. as the soul keeps doing her acts, her offerings in it. My fiat runs to place in them the seed of light, and its light possesses the virtue of rising in each instant and act. It seems like the sun, which rises for each little plant, for each flower. In fact, it does not give the same thing to all, as if it were rising for each one. It gives one effect to the little plant, one color to the flower, and distinct colors, one from the other. Such are the acts done in my divine will. They expose themselves to the rays of my divine sun, and receive from it the seed of light, which makes rise in each act of creature such varieties of beauties and distinct colors. And one act calls for another to rise. So, one who lives in my will, with the resurrective seed of my light, gives me always new things, and is always in act of rising again, continuously, in the love, in the glory, and in the very life of her Creator. Then I continued my acts in the divine will. I wanted to embrace everything, in order to place in each created thing my adoration, my love, my gratitude to the one who had loved me so much, and had created so many things for love of me. And my sweet Jesus added, "Good daughter, for one who lives in my divine will and operates in it, the love of my fiat is so great, in seeing the littleness of the creature going around in all created things, to place in them her little acts, to say that she not only loves this divine will, but wants to recognize all its acts as many pledges of love. Love makes more love arise, and my will gives the rights to the soul in the divine goods. So each act that the creature does is a right that she acquires in the properties of her Creator. It happens that, by right, she feels herself being loved by the Supreme Being, because she has placed her love in the eternal love, and has acquired the right to be loved. The love of the creature and the divine love have fused together, and on both sides they feel the right to love each other. By right, she enjoys the light of the sun. By right, she breathes the air, drinks the water, feeds herself with the fruits of the earth, and so with all the rest. And oh, the great difference of one who takes, with rights, the divine goods. This one can be called a daughter, while the others can be called servants. And the creature with these rights gives us the love of our child, love of disinterest, love that says true love. Therefore, live always in my will, that you may feel within yourself and enjoy all the love of the divine paternity. Fiat. March 6, 1931. How only Jesus was the author of her state of sufferings, and because they forced him to, he has permitted a pause. how in God there is absolute rest. Outside of God, work. I continue to live amid the bitternesses of my present state. The thought that blessed Jesus is making scourges pour down, and that the peoples remain naked and starving, tortures me. And to think that my beloved and highest good Jesus has remained alone in his suffering, and I am no longer together with him in his pains. Oh, how it torments me! It seems to me that Jesus is all attention over me, so as not to let me fall into sufferings as before. Even more, he hides all the pains within himself to leave me free. And in seeing me afflicted, it seems to me that his intense love makes him put his pains aside to pay attention to my affliction. And he says to me, "Good daughter, my daughter, courage! Your Jesus still loves you. In nothing has my love for you decreased. And this because it was not you who refused me the suffering. No, my daughter would never have done this. They forced you to. And I, in order to give you peace, and to make them see that it was really I that kept you in that state of suffering for so many years. It was neither illness nor any other natural cause, but my paternal goodness that wanted to have one who would make up for my pains on earth, and these for the good of all. And now that they have forced you, and have forced me also with their impositions, I made it cease completely, giving you a break. This says in clear notes that only your Jesus was the author of your state. But I cannot hide my sorrow. It is so great that I can say that in the whole history of the world I have never received a similar sorrow from creatures. My heart is so grieved and gashed by this sorrow that I am forced to hide from you the deep gash, so as not to embitter you more. And then to see the indifference of some, and you know who they are, as if they had done nothing to me, increases my sorrow. And they force my justice to continue to pour the scourges. And I will continue, my daughter, to pour the chastisements. I told you this before, that if even just 1 month would pass of my keeping you suspended from your state of suffering, they will hear and see how many chastisements will pour down over the face of the earth. And while my justice does its course, we will occupy ourselves together with my divine will, I making it known to you, and you receiving the good of its knowledges, because each knowledge brings the growth of the life of my will in you, and for each act of yours done in the new knowledge, my fiat gains more ground in your soul, and extends more its kingdom in it. More so, since creatures have no power to enter into my divine will, to disturb us, and dictate to us the law. Therefore we are free to do whatever we want. We have absolute freedom. Therefore be attentive to continue to cross its interminable seas. Then while he was saying this, I felt my little intelligence being transported into an abyss of inaccessible light. This light concealed all the joys, all the beauties. In appearance it seemed to be light, but looking inside, there was no good which it did not possess. And my sweet Jesus added, "My daughter, our divine being is most pure light, light which contains everything, fills everything, sees everything, does everything. Light such that no one can arrive at seeing where our boundaries reach, its height and depth. The creature gets lost within our light because she does not find its shore, its port, in order to get out. And if the creature takes from this light of ours, it is just little drops that serve her to fill herself completely with light, to the point of overflowing outside. But our light does not decrease because the creature has taken from our own, but is replaced instantly by the resurrective virtue of our light. So, our Supreme Being is always at one level in perfect balance. We can give as much as we want if we find souls who want to take from our own without losing anything. Even more, if we find one who wants to take, we set to work. In fact, you must know that within us there is perfect rest, nor do we have anything to do. There is nothing to remove or to place. Our happiness is full and complete. Our joys are always new. Our will, as acting in us, gives us the perfect rest of the beatitudes of our divine being, which has no beginning and will have no end. So this abyss of light that you see contains an abyss of joy, of power, of beauty, of love, and so on. And we, while delighting, rest in them, because only when nothing is lacking and there is nothing to add, then can it be called true and absolute rest. On the other hand, outside of our divinity, our work comes out into the field, and this field is the creatures. Our very divine qualities, which inside of us give us rest, outside of ourselves give us to work. And now we make our will work for the good of creatures. That divine fiat, which we put out in the field in creation, from which all things came out, never desists from its work. It works incessantly. It works by preserving everything. It works for it wants to be known, for it wants to reign. It works in issuing more souls to the light of the world, and forms its admirable designs to carry out its work and to have the occasion to always work. It works in withdrawing souls into the bosom of eternity. We can call our divine will the all-doer that never spares continuous work, even for the good of those who do not recognize it. Our love works, our mercy, our power works, and also our justice works for the good of creatures. Otherwise, our Supreme Being would not be a balanced and perfect being, but would show weaknesses if our justice were put aside, leaving it aside when there is all the reason for it to do its punishing course. See, then, our work is the creatures, because having issued them from within our ardor of love, our love leads us to work in order to always, always love them. Because if our work ceased, love would cease, and creation would resolve into nothing. Fiat. You have reached the end of the Book of Heaven, Volume 29, Part 2. Fiat.